derivative each of the following functions with respect to x. So let me start with the first one. So for the first one, we can imagine that this is f of x, which is equal to x squared then minus sine x. Let's write it nicely. X squared minus sine x. So this one is a difference rule that we are going to use for us to answer this one. So we are finding the dy dx, or we are finding the f prime, and this one is going to be equal to the dy dx of this one, that is just 2x, then the derivative of just sine itself, this one here, it is cos. Now remember, we have a negative, so meaning to say we have cos here, but it doesn't mean that the derivative of cos is negative. Let me say the derivative of sine is negative cos. No, the derivative of sine is positive cos. Now that we have a negative, that's the reason why we're having a negative there. So for the first part, we are done. The second part, we have two functions here. If I were to group these functions, I can say f of x is equal to x squared, then g of x is equal to cos x. So since they are multiplying each other, we need to use the product rule for us to find the derivative. So the derivative using the product rule, if these are the functions that we have, meaning we need to find the f prime and then multiply with the g function, then plus we need to find the f prime of g, then multiply with the original function of f. So this is what we are supposed to do for us to find the derivative of that. So the derivative of f, which is x squared, we are going to have 2x, then multiply by g is cos x, then plus the derivative of cosine is negative sine x, then multiply by the function of f, which is just x squared. So what do we have? We have 2x cos x minus, so let me start with x squared. So x squared, then sine x, then from there we are done the second part. The third part, we are differentiating this one here. So what are we supposed to use? So whichever way we choose, we can use the quotient rule, or we can use the first principle to find the derivative of that one. So let me just use the quotient rule. So the quotient rule, if we label these functions as the one on top as f, which is sine x, then the one on the down part as x, meaning to say we need to find the derivative of f multiplied by the g function, then minus the derivative of g multiplied by f, then divided by the function g, now squared. So this is the formula that you need to know when you are finding the derivative. The reason why we are using quotient rule, this is because this function, they are dividing each other. So let's find what's the derivative of f. The derivative of sine is cos. Then what is g? G is x. Then minus the derivative of g. The derivative of x is 1. Then the original function of f is sine x, then divided by the g function squared. G function there is x. Okay, so meaning to say we have x squared. So what are we going to have? We're going to have x, which is this one. I'm writing it first, and then I write cos x, and then minus sine x, and then divided by x squared. Alright, so this is what we have as our final answer. And from there, you are done. Okay, now let's see the fourth one. So the fourth one, we have been given two functions also, so we need to use product rule. So let's just name the first function as f of x as sine x, then the second one is g of x as cos x. So finding the derivative, we need to use the product rule. So the derivative is going to be equal to f prime multiplied by g, then plus g prime multiplied by f function. So what is our f function? The f prime. F prime is this one. The derivative of sine is cos. Then g is cos also. Then plus the derivative of g function is negative sine x. So we have negative sine x here. What about the function f? Function f is sine x. So what do we have here? If I multiply, I'm going to get cos squared x, and then when I multiply here, I'm going to get negative sine x squared. So this is what we have. But remember, there is this identity, sine squared x plus cos squared x. This one is equal to 1. Okay, so meaning to say that this one is not equal to this. But if we can come up with another identity where we say sine squared x minus cos squared x, this one is going to be equal to negative 1. Have you seen that? So meaning to say what we have here is equal to negative 1. Or if you want, you can do this. What is cos squared? Cos squared x is equal to 1 minus sine squared x. So you can put that here. Just sine squared x. Then what are we going to have? We're going to have 1 minus 2 sine squared x. This one is going to be our final answer. So that is how you're supposed to answer that. Then the last question, question 5. So there we have two functions which are dividing each other. So meaning we need to use quotient rule. We need to use quotient rule. So quotient rule, the derivative is going to be equal to f prime multiplied by g, then minus g prime x multiplied by f, then divided by the g function, and then we square it. So this is what we have. So let's name the one which is on top as the function of f, which is cos x, and then the g function as 1 minus this one here. So let's start. The derivative of cos is negative sine. What we have on the g function is 1 minus sine x. The derivative of this one here, remember this one is a sum. So meaning we need to find the derivative of that. It's going to be 0. The derivative of that is going to be negative cos x. Actually, the derivative of sine is cos, but here we're having a negative. That's the reason why we're having negative cos. Multiplied by the f function. F function is cos x divided by 1 minus sine x. Then we square it. From there we can multiply. Then plus this one. Then here you can see that negative and negative positive. Then cos multiplied by cos, that is plus cos squared x. Then divided by, this one has to be like this. On the down part we have 1 minus sine squared x squared. Not sine squared x, sorry for that. It is sine x. Then we square it like this. Okay? So from there, what are we going to have? This thing here that we have here, sine squared x plus cos squared x is 1, which is positive 1. So we can say 1 minus, since this one is negative, I'm starting with a positive value. So 1 minus sine x, then divided by 1 minus sine x, squared. So as you can see, this one and this, they are looking alike. So if I cancel one here, I'm just going to remain with a single x minus sine x. Okay, but here on top I'm just going to remain with 1 since I'm going to cancel this one. So meaning to say our final answer here is just going to be 1 over x minus sine x. So this is how you're supposed to answer that. Okay, thanks for watching.